Welcome to Strange Weekly News. In this show, taking a look into the news and headlines to pick out curious reports of the strange, the weird, and the mysterious. Anything from UFO news to science advancements, the paranormal, and stuff labeled fringe science and fringe phenomena. Each news item we go over in the show, I will place all the links to them in the description box below once this live show is over, as well as chapters on the timeline index. Welcome to everyone watching this live and all of my first time viewers and listeners. Before we get started, there's a few things that I would like to mention. Tuesday's show, Top 5, we covered the top 5 scariest creature sightings, including the sheep squatch. Then on Wednesday, Jimmy Church and I reviewed season 4, episode 5 of The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch, and we will be doing more reviews every single Wednesday live. Then yesterday on Mysteries with a History with Jimmy Church, we covered UFO flaps and mass sightings. So now we do 4 shows a week here live. If you haven't subscribed already, do that right now and hit the like button because I have a bunch of great articles for you today and a bunch great new content coming to you almost, it feels like every single day, but it's not. It's only 4 times a week. Oh, last thing I would like to mention is the gift card. So I love giving back to all of you every single Friday. And so for those that catch this live, you're in for a treat because you're able to win a Starbucks or Amazon gift card. So today's word is ice cream, and it is all one word. Let me share my screen here. Also in all caps. Hold on, let me pull this up. Beautiful. It's ice cream. Why? Because we're getting into the hot season. Unless you're on the other side of the world like Australia. But aside from them, right? It's so warm, and ice cream, it just makes everything better. So ice cream in all caps, it's one word. I know it looks kind of weird, but when you put that in the live chat, you will enter to win a Starbucks or Amazon gift card. The base price is 10. If you want to make someone's day, put in a super chat that says for the gift card, and I will rack that up, and then the drawing will be at the very end of the show. And while you're putting this in, also tell me either in the live chat or in the comments, I do read all the comments, what your favorite flavor ice cream is. I think in my case, my favorite, I do love some good old plain vanilla, homemade vanilla, because you can add all the delicious toppings, but also I feel like pistachio ice cream is pretty good as well. So let's get straight into the articles while you tell me your favorite ice cream flavor. I'm going to share my screen here. You know the drill as a visual aid. So let me pull this up because right now this is a heck of a hot topic. And if you are a follower on this channel, you've probably already seen something that we're going to be talking about today. Let me pull this up. And we'll be talking about Dr. Garry Nolan and the speech that he gave at the Salt Eye Communication Conference. This was a big deal. If you haven't seen it, you can find the whole 20-minute segment right here on this channel. Highly recommend that you watch it, but watch it after you finish watching Strange Weekly News, of course. But there was some very, very interesting information that was released by Dr. Nolan, and we're going to be covering that in pretty good detail. So he is a Stanford professor who has researched unidentified aerial phenomena for the US government, and he says that he believes extraterrestrial intelligence has not only visited Earth, but it's been here a long time, and it's still here. That's already a big statement right there. He claims that scientists who he has worked with and knows have worked on reverse engineering downed craft. And he also mentioned that they had given Congress a classified testimony which created a hornet's nest in Washington. So there is a lot happening behind the scenes. We've heard people say that and we're like, come on, the public needs to know. But we're beginning to see a lot of this come into fruition. We've gotten the hearing with Arrow not too long ago. We've gotten UAP reports the last 2 years. We're having more people come out, and it seems like there's going to be more to come. 2023 is a very hot year when it comes to UAP disclosure, and you can define that however you wish. Disclosure, it is the big D word. It's huge, and everyone has their own opinion on what it means. But I can tell you this. Disclosure isn't going to come from the government, it's not going to come from a TV show. It's going to come from us, the people. But these types of conversations that the government is having that's making it public, it's inspiring people to look into this. TV shows such as The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch, it's touching millions of people's minds to think outside of the box of their mundane activities and think of the paranormal, think of the UFO phenomenon, and then begin to ask questions, fueling more this exact conversation that just happened on Thursday. Dr. Nolan is a professor of pathology at Stanford University School of Medicine who has published more than 300 research articles and holds 40 US patents, and made the bombshell comments during a talk at the SALT Eye Communications Conference in New York on Thursday. The respected researcher is one of the most accomplished scientists publicly studying the phenomenon, including by analyzing the brains of people who say they've experienced a UFO encounter, which is a very unique aspect to look into when it comes to science. So during the session, moderator Alex Klukas, founder and managing partner at Salt Fund, asked Dr. Nolan, "Do you believe that extraterrestrial intelligence has visited planet Earth?" And he said, "I think you can go a step further. It hasn't just visited, it's been here a long time and it's still here." You know, people talk about the wow signal, looking for extraterrestrial intelligence. The wow signal is that people see it on almost a regular basis, and that's the communication that's already here. End quote. Now, the WOW signal was a powerful 72-second narrow bandwidth signal picked up by the Ohio State University's Big Ear Radio Telescope back in 1977, which has not been detected since and has been a long source of speculation in the stargazing community. Now, this a really great movie that touched on this was the movie Contact, and it went into detail how SETI found this wow signal, and everyone in that was working there that night, they were freaking out. They're like, "This is the craziest thing ever." If you haven't seen that movie, it is great. It came out back in 1997, I believe. Now, the moderator continued asking Dr. Nolan questions. Again, you can find that whole interview here on this channel. And he said, "You know, that statement that you just made is pretty tough to believe for many." And he asked him, "What's the probability that this is true, that what you said is true?" And Nolan said, 100%. Pure confidence. He's like, 100%, no questions. And then he continues, "That's not just my opinion. The National Defense Authorization Act passed last year, signed by Biden in December 30th. December, 30 pages of that is the established of an unidentified aerial phenomena office." He said that the office and the All Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, ARROW, which has 25 people working in it, has been tasked with collecting the information across all of the U.S. Department of Defense intelligence offices and other people to look at this information and then provide it to Congress and then hopefully provide it to the public. 12 US senators have signed on to a document that basically says we want that information and we need those people on the inside to get the ball rolling. So for Dr. Nolan to talk about this publicly again just a few days ago, it's a really, really big deal. And he goes into a lot more detail. He covers a lot more questions, but there were a few that I think were the most compelling. And one of them being, he spoke about reverse engineering. He says, "I know people who are reverse engineering down craft. We have the evidence. Now we just need that information to be made public." But he also stated that mostly what you're seeing here are either drones or some sort of advanced AI or whatever it is, because we're already dealing with an alien intelligence in our own emails, ChatGPT, etc. We don't know what it's doing. So imagine if you were a million years ahead of us. How do you have a dialogue with something like that? And so then he goes into detail on all of these different things, and it's absolutely fascinating. Scott, welcome to becoming a new YouTube member. Thank you so much. And Doomsday Diary, thank you for that. Let me know if it's for the gift card or for the channel, and I will write that down. And Jorian, thank you. What are your thoughts on theories on Bigfoot? Jimmy and I did a whole show on the mysteries of Bigfoot. You can find that right here. And we go into great detail on that. What are my thoughts? When I first heard it, I was like, it's kind of boring. Then they brought in the aspect of portals, and I was like, now I'm interested. So those are my thoughts. And Cecile, thank you so much. 10 for the card and 10 for the wagon. Thank you so much for that. And you know what? It's actually Mr. Webb, so please forgive me on that one. Okay, so we're looking at 20. Fantastic. Don't forget that word is ice cream in all caps, and that is one word. Doomsday, thank you for that. So one interesting aspect that he also brings up is saying, look at what the government is doing. Look at the conversation that the government is having. That is saying something, and people are still like, oh, UFOs aren't real, aliens aren't real, there's no life outside of planet Earth, blah, blah, blah. If that were the case, the government wouldn't have interest in looking at downed craft, looking at the possibilities of UFO sightings, Project Blue Book, Arrow, ATIP, so on and so forth. For them to have an interest in it is saying something. But he was very specific. Dr. Nolan was very specific in saying, you need to read between the lines. They're not going to throw out and say, aliens are here. That's not going to happen. People expect that to happen, and you are going to be wholeheartedly disappointed every single time because you're never, ever going to get that. But he's saying, read between the lines. And that is probably the best advice you could possibly give the public when attempting to understand or decipher what the government is saying, or anyone that isn't a pretty high level of status when talking about UFOs. Don't go strictly on what they're saying. Don't hold on to the words, but look at what the words that they aren't saying but attempting to allude to. That's really important. He also brings in the concept of religion, and the concept of religion in UFOs is absolutely fascinating. I had Dr. Diana Pasulka on a while back, and also Paul Thigpen, who look at these exact aspects. And it's something that it truly blows my mind. And for those that are my regular listeners, know that while I am majoring in communication, there was a certain period in my college career where I wanted to major in religious studies. That didn't end up happening, but it's something that it's always captivated me. And he brings up the conversation of the Vatican. He says, I know people that are working with the Vatican to bring the conversation out about UFOs. Dr. Diana Pasulka also mentioned that in the interview that I did with her, and you can find that right here on this channel as well, which I do highly recommend. But both of these people are stating the Vatican knows a good amount about UFOs. But here's exactly what Nolan mentioned. He says, and he says that in this case, it's very arrogant what he's about to say. And then he continues, well, of course they could be Christian. Of course they could have a Jesus. They could be saved. They have souls. I think the opportunity is for us to worry about is whether they think we are worth saving. And then the segment ends there. The interview ends there on such an amazing cliffhanger. My jaw dropped because there is no better way to end an interview than to drop something like that. Don't say thank you right at the end. I that's not something that you're supposed to do, but that everyone does anyway. But in this case, he says, hopefully they think we are worth saving, and he's alluding to extraterrestrials. And that's a really great question. In your opinion, as all the things that you're seeing in 2023, do you think humanity is worth saving? Especially if we look into the concept that Nolan had mentioned, stating that not only are they visiting Earth, but they've been here a very, very long time. They have seen the progress of humanity, and here we are in present day, 2023. Do you think we are worth saving? Do you think we are significant in the means of the entire universe and potentially other sentient, intelligent beings? Are we significant enough? Or are we just going to blow ourselves up and no one's going to save us from our own toys that we created? These are the questions that we need to ask, and they're worth musing about. And if you do like philosophy, right, these are the kinds of questions that you would probably enjoy musing on. And it is things that we need to talk about as well. John Aside, thank you so much for that. For the giveaway, I'm checking into the hotel at a horror convention, CryptCon. We'll catch a stream later. That sounds exciting. Good luck. Have fun. And thank you so much for donating to the gift card fund. We're now looking at $30. Someone's going to walk away a very happy person with a Starbucks or Amazon gift card. That word is ice cream in all caps. And that's one word as well. And then tell me, what's your favorite ice cream as well? But for those that haven't seen the segment, based merely on the information that I've provided to you, what are your thoughts on this? I would like to hear what you have to say about this, but also, again, I really, really highly recommend that you watch it as well, because it opens a lot of doors. It opens a lot of conversations. And in my opinion, he might be one of the first people to talk out about this at this scale with the credentials that he has. So, what does that mean for us in the future? Please attempt to answer that question. What does this conference mean for our future when it comes to the conversation of UFOs, ET, disclosure? What's next? I'm seeing a lot of ice cream flavors. Gelato's delicious. Cookie dough, yum. I like the, well, actually, no, I don't love that one too much. But like, it's kind of nice, but it's not great. Verpine says, why do ufologists hate humanity so much? If you actually look at the facts, world hunger has decreased, deaths from natural disasters has decreased, even deaths from war have decreased. Now, I'm not saying that all ufologists hate humanity, but these are questions that we need to ask. While these things have decreased, as you have mentioned, what has increased significantly is ego, greed, me, right? That is something that has changed so much, I would say, in the last few decades due to the internet, where we don't care about others. We don't necessarily care about the environment and the things that we do. What we care about is our comforts, our happiness, and the instant pleasures that we can receive. So, yes, we have great medicines now. Yes, war isn't as significant as it used to be. But there are still a few things that make you scratch your head. Is it worth it? And I'm not here to tell you yes or no, that yes, it is, or no, that it isn't, because that's not my place. But I am here to ask that question, to hear your insights, but also, if you haven't thought about it, to take a step back and think, are we or aren't we? Is that going to change anything? Well, it's going to change how you view it. And that's what matters most. Interesting, Become Human. Dr. Nolan is saying about Area 51, Montauk Base, and Dulce Base. Interesting. He didn't use those words in that segment, but was he alluding to that? I think someone could read in between the lines and assume so. Raz says, things exist worse than death. Oof. Strawberry ice cream, says Lex. Strawberry ice cream is delicious. And strawberry milkshakes, very specifically from Chick-fil-A, nothing beats those. Nothing. Well, while you think about some pretty deep questions, let's move on over to something that's decently relevant to this conversation that we're having right now. So let me share my screen here before we get into it. But we will be talking about NASA and their UAP hearing, which is going to be May 31st, which is really around the corner. And I feel like people say this every year, but I'm just going to add to that. we're already almost halfway through the year. And I remember January 1st. I remember thinking, okay, I'm going to do this year and this and this. And then we're halfway through it. And I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. I just closed my eyes. I took a little nap. And here we are already in the summer. So May 31st is in not that long from now, and watch it come, which what will feel like tomorrow. So NASA TV is going to air this at 10:30 a.m. EDT on May 31st, where the agency will announce and be broadcasting a meeting of an independent study team tasked with categorizing and evaluating UAP data. The public can even submit their own questions, and the most popular of which will be passed on to the team. This is so exciting, and I will share that link for you to add in your question if you'd like. I do have a few screenshots here of some questions that are already there for people to look at. I can pull those up, and you can read these while I continue with this. But before anyone gets too excited, the meeting is about how NASA can evaluate and study UAP by using data, technology, and the tools of science. And the press release explains that they won't be reviewing or assessing any unidentifiable observations. So, if you are hoping for the US government to acknowledge that we're not alone in the universe, you're probably going to be disappointed. That said, they wouldn't have to assemble a team to study these reports if there were all so easily dismissed, right? As always, interstellar visitors are dead last on the list of possible explanations, but some cases have too much hard evidence to be dismissed out of hand. And they might not just be little green men, but they are definitely something. So, this NASA meeting has a step towards that goal. And of course, you and I will be looking forward to seeing what the team has to say about the data potentially con- collected and go from there. But this is something that's really important to mention, is that they're going to evaluate the study of UAP by using data, technology, and the tools of science. That's the aspect that they're going to be looking at this from. That's the lens they're going to look at with. So they're not going to say aliens, or we can't expect that from really anyone, I guess, from other than ourselves, if we were to have an experience. But aside from that, it's still absolutely fascinating that NASA is getting on the bandwagon. The question would be why? Why would NASA do this now when they've been looking at space for decades? They have all of this data. The James Webb Space Telescope is also amazing, by the way. But the question is, why do they want to create at least a public group looking at UFOs, UAP now? Right? Now, we've been sitting on this information for, I would say, a little under like a year. This NASA team is supposed to look at data for just over 6 months and then provide that data to NASA, also to Congress, and then hopefully we'll also get a little bit of that as well. Again, we will see something May 31st at 10:30 a.m. EDT. But what will that be? Well, I guess we'll find out when we watch it. Yes. But I guess let me ask you this. What are you hoping to see? What would you like to see? Now, keep in mind, we're not going to hear the word alien. We're not going to see any intelligent alien evidence. If absolutely anything, I mean, if anything, it'll be microbial life or the hints of microbial life. And that's about it. But aside from those little tidbits, what are you hoping to hear NASA say, or the data that NASA will provide? And also let me know, out of these questions right here, these are the top rating questions, which ones you find interesting. I'd like to hear that as well. Also, at that link to where you can place your questions will be in the description box below as well. And then you just got to hope that other people like it and upvote it, very much like Reddit, seems like. But yes. Robert says, LOL. Have you all seen the Tic Tac and go for a ride? LOL. Well, the Tic Tac and the Go Faster, incredible. The video footage that we have received, they're moving at speeds that are impeccable. And if there was something inside, it would turn into mush, right? Basic physics. So we can bring in the conversation of what Dr. Nolan had mentioned, that these could potentially be drones or controlled by advanced AI, where nothing that's like that has a body would be inside of that going in those impeccable maneuvers. But a drone would seem a little bit more plausible, especially if, right, they don't really want to interact with people, because we've seen it time and time again. Anything that we don't understand, we shoot it down. And if we don't understand it even more, we take it into the lab and we dissect it, right? That's just how humanity is. With any type of species that we do not understand, we capture it, kill it, cut it up, and then we're like, okay, I'm not scared anymore. Now I get what it is. Okay, that makes a lot more sense now. I don't want to be on the other side of that equation. I'll pass. Thank you very much. And in this case, if we were being visited by ET, they'd probably would think the same, and they would say, you know what, I think I'm just going to drop off a drone instead, collect the data, and then bring it back to me, because I'm not going to go down there. No way. I am not ready to be on a table. Not today. Funny. Android says, we are also unable to identify these products, and we also have videos of UAP from space. We will work with Arrow on these. And that's what NASA had mentioned, which is a really, really great point. And I'm glad you brought that up, because that's awesome. Zenza says, Dr. Nolan says, they've been here a long time. And if we look at ancient cultures, they usually talk about being visited by what they would classify as angels, as gods. But what if they were ET? And you've probably heard this conversation before, so I'm not going to go too deep into it, but it's all about perspective. What This is another really famous quote, right? One person's magic is another person's technology, and vice versa. So it's interesting that Nolan would say they've been here a long time, because then we can look at those ancient cultures and kind of make assumptions based on that. But I am excited for this, and I would like to see what information that NASA will provide May 31st. So write that down on your calendar so you do not miss it live. Moving on, talking about a potential habitable exoplanet, really not too far away in the means of space and the universe. So let me share my screen here as a visual aid. This is not what the planet actually looks like, but it's an assumption. So, at a glance, the LP 791 18D, which is this planet, probably seems like a violent place to live. But if new findings from NASA researchers hold up, the Earth sized exoplanet orbiting a star 90 light years away from us is teeming with active volcanoes all over its surface. But is this a place suitable for life to thrive? Well, this planet's LP, I'm just going to make it that short, whose discovery was announced in a new study published on Wednesday in Nature, might not be a cozy place most of us would enjoy, but still it might be habitable. So they're looking into this to kind of get a better understanding, but this planet is in fact covered with hundreds of volcanoes. So the LP was found by NASA's TESS, which stands for Transiting Exoplanet Survey Satellite, and the recently retired Spitzer Space Telescope, and in combination with data acquired by ground-based observatories around the world as well. The new paper shows that the planet is probably undergoing the same kind of volcanic outbursts that dot Jupiter's moon Io, the most volcanically active body in the solar system. The planet is tidally locked, which means that the same side is constantly facing the star it's orbiting, and one side of the planet is always in the daytime, while the other one is always at night. The day side is probably incredibly hot, and the liquid water probably couldn't condense onto the surface. But with a tidally locked planet, it's that little middle half, right? Kind of like the horizon where it's just perfect, not too hot, not too cold, like Goldilocks. But the volcanic activity that dots the planet means that the planet LP could help build an atmosphere for the entire planet. An atmosphere could help water condense on the night side of the planet, and that means that life of some kind, probably microbial, could perhaps evolve and sustain itself. The LP planet sits precisely in a distance from the star where liquid water could theoretically pool up on a planet. That is really, really awesome news. And with the new technology that we have, we're able to get more detailed data on these types of planets. I mean, a great example of this is the James Webb Space Telescope, looking at planets, exoplanets' atmospheres, which then astronomers can think, okay, based on what we're seeing right here, is it possible? So they're always theorizing, they're always thinking outside the box, and they're always thinking as well, there are places on Earth where life should not be able to thrive. Like, there are locations where you're like, how is this even possible? If that's the case for this planet, that could be the case for so many other exoplanets that were once brushed off and thought, nah, nothing can live there. But now, with the examples that we have, now that we're able to see the potential possibilities, people and astronomers are looking back at these other planets that were once brushed off, these exoplanets, and they're thinking to themselves, you know what? It's possible. You know what? Maybe. It could be, at the very least, microbial life, which is still something, which is still life. And that's the exciting thing. When you are a scientist, you need to think outside of the box. You need to be imaginative, but you also need to use your intellect as well. Those people that have succeeded significantly were classified as crazy, were classified as being daydreamers, being too imaginative, wasting their time in certain aspects of their life. But it's those brilliant minds that were told those exact things that are making a difference for our world and making a difference on how we view our world and our universe. So whenever someone tells you that you're crazy, take that as a good compliment and say, thank you. Thank you so much that I'm not another robot here on this planet, but I'm actually doing something with the creativity that I have, right? That's the best mentality to have. See everything in a positive light, really. But the volcanoes on this particular planet, while they have been theorized based on the atmosphere, unfortunately, they have not been confirmed. But there's some pretty good reason to believe that they do exist on the planet LP, because it actually has two sibling planets that also orbit the same star. And one of these planets in particular passes close to LP, and gravitationally tugs on it, causing slight geological deformations each time. And those deformations are enough to generate internal friction that heat up the planet's interior and for volcanic activity to burst out of the surface. So that's pretty exciting. And we need to look at all of the evidence, not just the mere basics. Right? We can't just look at the one plan. We got to see the whole environment to get a better understanding of how it's affecting those planets that could potentially have some type of microbial life or in some way being habitable, which is what we're always looking for. So that's pretty exciting. Scott says there's life on that planet. Trent says, if not water, how can you have clouds? Well, this particular planet, they believe that because it's kind of in that Goldilocks zone, it's possible that there could be water that pools kind of closer to the darker side of this tidally locked planet. So then we can just kind of go into the assumption, right, that there would be a decent atmosphere and potentially clouds as well. Not on the hot side, but on the cooler side. Hey, alien girl, good to see you. Brog says, ooh, weird news. Watching this on Twitch. Well, hello. Hello there. Yeah, don't forget to put the word in ice cream to win a $30 Starbucks or Amazon gift card. If you want to make someone's day, put in a super chat that says for the gift card, and I will rack that up as well. So that's going to be pretty darn awesome. But so far, with the articles that have been covered, and we still have so many more, I would like to hear your thoughts on these types of things. Because these, opening our minds to these mere possibilities makes us think outside of the box. And that's what's so cool. That'd be awesome, Scott. So moving on to our next one. This one's kind of more into the paranormal. So let me share my screen here as a visual aid. Let's pull this up. Because a hospice nurse has revealed that dying people often see very specific things in their final moments. Julie McFadden said her patients often tell her that they see their loved ones who have already passed on before they themselves pass away. She added that their deceased relatives will tell them comforting words such as, "We're coming to get you soon," or "Don't worry, we'll help you." Julie has worked in hospice care for more than 5 years after spending more than a decade working as an ICU nurse. And she's often around death due to her job, with hospice care focusing on helping terminally ill patients to help them reduce their pain and suffering. And according to her, it's extremely common for dying patients to see dead friends, relatives, and even dead pets as well. She said it happens so often that they had to put it in their educational packets that they give to patients and their loved ones, but that she can't explain why this occurs. Okay. Did you grasp that? It's happening so significantly. They had to add that detail in their educational packets that they just give out to other patients and other loved ones. That's a really, really big deal. And she mentions this happens so often that we have to put it in our educational packets that we give to the patients and their loved ones so they understand what's going on. But we don't know why it happens and we can't explain it. It usually happens a month or so before the patient dies and they start seeing dead relatives, dead friends, and old pets that have passed on. Even spirits and angels are visiting them as well, so these patients say. Only they can see and hear them. Sometimes it's through a dream, and sometimes they can physically see them, and they'll actually ask us, "Do you see what I'm seeing?" Julie explained that the patients are usually not afraid, but that they're actually very comforted by it. Most people love this and they're very comfortable with it. It's not scary to them, but yeah, we simply cannot explain it, and it happens all of the time. This is absolutely fascinating, especially when we're dealing with the paranormal, those that have an interest in the paranormal phenomenon. People are visited by their loved ones. And this is the same case with sometimes astral projection, near death experiences, out of body experiences. Wouldn't it be so much easier to be confronted by someone that you love versus like a stranger being like, "All right, it's your time to go. Come on." And you think to yourself, who are you? Like, can you help me understand what's going on here? But if it's a loved one, someone that you're familiar with, then you think, okay, I feel a lot more at ease. it's making a lot more sense. And I will believe what you have to say because I know you. Okay. So that's something that's very interesting. And for a hospice nurse to mention this, to put it in their educational packets, goes to show how significant it is. But it also goes to show that for those that are into the paranormal and the paranormal phenomenon that believe in that there's a very close convergence between life and death. They're just right there. They're right next to each other, like two pennies that you put between your fingers and you rub against them, right? It's very much like that. And it's so nice to hear from these people's experiences that they're not scared. So many people in your day to day life are very, very terrified of death. And they're terrified because it's the unknown. You don't know what's going to happen on the other side. There are so many religions, there's so many cultures that try to fill in the gaps and say, well, there is something on the other side. You will continue to live, you will reincarnate. Or in some cultures and religions, they say, nope, that's it. That's it. You're just going to pass on. It's going to be just a black void. Or it could be, all right, you finished your life here. Now you are either on to heaven or hell, and that's it for you. So you have all of these different ideas, but you don't know until you get there. And that's the scary part. But then it's also a little bit scary in the aspects of, I worked so hard in this life. I did so many great things, that type of mentality. And you're scared to lose those achievements, those attachments. So that's another aspect that can be a little bit scary. But when you are visited by your loved ones or those that you could possibly classify as angels or spirits, and they tell you it's going to be okay, that alleviates a lot of that fear of the unknown. Charlie, thank you so much for the gift card. How has finals been? So I just finished my finals. They were pretty tough, but now I'm doing summer school. So it's no rest, no peace, and I'm always running around, but I'm ready to graduate. I'm ready to get out of university already. But thank you so much for that. 32. That word is ice cream, all caps, one word. Put that in the live chat if and only if you're watching this live to win a $32 Starbucks or Amazon gift card. Thank you. It's also up there as well. But in this aspect, because not everyone believes in something happening after one passes. Not everyone believes in ghosts and the paranormal. And I'm not here to tell you one or the other. I'm not here to tell you you have to believe in it or you don't. But I would like to hear your insights and your opinion on this particular article of those that are soon about to pass over, that they are visited allegedly by deceased loved ones, and also a really interesting detail of deceased pets as well. I would love to see all of my cats that have passed on to visit me. That'd be amazing. And I think there was this conversation a while ago of like just ghost cats. That sounds so great. They'll love you, but you don't have to feed them or clean up after them, but they're always there, right? I think that's awesome. I would love a ghost cat. Or a talking cat, too. That'd also be kind of great. Trent says, we scream for ice cream. Heck yeah. So good. XR says, so if reincarnation exists, why do people see their loved ones before dying? Well, I guess you can look into the aspect of maybe time isn't linear, where with this of you being visited by your loved ones, but they're reincarnating. What if there's that gap between life and death, that little vacation time, right? Or you can also look at it, and scientists are beginning to believe this, that time isn't linear. Actually, there's this new study that the future affects the past. There's that new little thing in quantum mechanics right now, which is truly, truly fascinating. So maybe that might answer a question or continue to keep thinking about it. But it's definitely a great question, and it's a really big rabbit hole to really dive deep into as well. Dan says, I don't think deceased relatives visit you when you're on your deathbed, but I have deceased relatives show up occasionally while walking and often in my dreams. That's pretty interesting. There have been a lot of stories of people being visited by loved ones, in their dreams, and occasionally, you said occasionally while waking, and often Andrea said walking. Please forgive me on that. But that is something that I've heard. It's something that my mother has told me stories of. That one time she was sleeping, and then someone that she absolutely loved had passed on and had told her that he had just passed on. And then she wakes up, makes a phone call, and it turns out that person had just passed away. So it is really weird how they can work in dreams, if you believe that kind of stuff. And the question would be, why? Is it because you're the most open minded? Is it because that's where you create your own reality at times? Why is it in your dreams and not in the waking state? Is it because the waking state, you're just so occupied with thoughts and your environment with all of these sensations that they just simply cannot interact with you when you're awake? But when you're asleep, the body is asleep. Your mind isn't thinking as fast as it does when it's awake. So they're able to contact you then. It's a possibility. There's been a good amount of studies on that, but we don't have the answers. We just have speculations on these types of things. Peace of Mind says it's like our energy returns to its source. Energy just changes form. Right. Energy cannot be created nor destroyed. It can only change. Great. Well, continue thinking about that one while we move on to our next one. And this one's about the International Space Station, the ISS, and its termination. That's right. We're not going to have it that much longer, just a few more years. And then we're going to see what happens next. But in 8 years, the International Space Station, a place of global collaboration and human ability, will end. But that dramatic finale doesn't need to be a somber occasion. Instead, it could be a sign for an exciting future of human spaceflight that will hopefully already be underway. The ISS project began in 1998 with the launch of Russia's Zarya model and the first component of the station. It has seen dozens of countries work together to build the largest human built construction in space. Most notably, it held a partnership between two foes, the US and Russia, following the end of the Cold War and the fall of the Soviet Union. Wendy Whitman Cobb, a space policy expert from the U.S. Air Force's School of Advanced Air and Space Studies, says it was absolutely huge. It's really this great story of post Cold War corporation. Russia's space industry was in dire straits. This was an opportunity for the US and Russia to open up this new era of working together. The result has been a great space station that would encompass a football field and weigh more than 400 tons, orbiting our planet at about 18,000 miles per hour or about 29,000 kilometers an hour at a cost of at least $150 billion. It has then continuously been occupied since its first crew arrived back in November of the year 2000. However, the station's hardware is aging, so in 2031, it will be deorbited and brought back through Earth's atmosphere and crashing into the ocean. Thousands of scientific experiments have been conducted on the ISS across both the US and the Russian side of the station, and in European and Japanese built models that were also attached. Researchers have looked into this and they have done significant research, which they even investigated diseases such as Alzheimer's and Parkinson's studies and their new states of matter, and developing ways to grow food in space such as lettuce and radishes. Also, baby formula was originally created on the ISS, and we covered that here. I thought that really interesting, actually, because it was supposed to be food for the astronauts, but then it turned into baby formula. So Not everyone agrees on the success on the ISS, and some said that it costed way too much money to build and to maintain and to send people into space, but others think otherwise. So that's something that, you're always going to have two sides to it. Those that believe that it was a great idea and others that don't. So that's something that's pretty interesting on this. And I would just kind of like to go a little bit deeper on the baby formula. There was a certain aspect of it, a type of plant that was placed into it that was found on the ISS to in order to create more nutrients when it comes to the astronauts that were staying there. It was so incredible in their eyes that they ended up putting it in baby formula. Baby formula has been around for a very long period of time, but the newer type that we have, it's because of what was found and the tests that were done at the International Space Station. So I would like to just add to that. But what people aren't necessarily happy with, that the majority of people can agree on, is that the International Space Station is just going to plummet into the ocean. And then that $150 billion worth of building it is just going to be gone forever. So there are a few scientists and a few activists that are saying, no, no, low, like let's keep some of these parts we can reuse, reduce, and recycle, right? Like that's what we want to do. So they're going to see how that goes when it comes closer to the date, which is going to be 2031. And they'll see if they'll be able to keep any of these, I would say, some pretty expensive parts. And they will see what it's going to end up in the ocean. Maybe none of it will end up in the ocean. We won't know until it happens. But it would be nice to even make it into a museum. Like, just bring it on a parking lot, right? And then allow people to go in and experience the International Space Station. Why do you gotta put it back in the ocean? Like, that's not cool. No way. I would love to go visit that if it was just here on Earth. So that'd be awesome. And if you are enjoying the articles that you are hearing so far, hit the like button. Coming it to 200, we have 195 people watching this live. The YouTube algorithm is brutal. So hit the like button if you are enjoying the content. And I still have a bunch of articles for you. Also, put the word ice cream in the live chat if and only if you are watching this live. And I'll put that up on the screen so that you can win a $32 Starbucks or Amazon gift card. We have 64 entries. Come on, let's get to at least 90 entries. And if you want to make someone's day, put in a super chat that says for the gift card and I will rack that up. Peace of Mind says, I'd pay to go visit the space station. Oh yeah, me too. That would be so awesome. Black says, probably going to burn up in entry. Probably. Good point. Good point. So then maybe they just like attempt to just keep some of it at the very least. Even if it was all burnt up, it would still make an awesome museum on the inside. That'd be so cool. Yeah, Doomsday. SpaceX doesn't need a space station. It's going to build its own base on the moon. Yes. And we can get deeper into that. This article actually touches on it. So let's continue because you do bring up a really, really great point. Oh, also, did you know that like every time there's a launch to go to the International Space Station and to maintain it, it's like $3 billion. That's a lot of money. So with the I would say the destruction of the International Space Station, NASA will be able to free up $3 billion spent each year on the ISS. So that's going to be pretty interesting. But NASA does want to build a new space station near the moon, known as the Lunar Gateway, with the help of international partners. So construction could begin later this decade. While it won't match the size and the scale of the ISS, it could become a key part of future human spaceflight to the moon and beyond, acting as an outpost for astronauts traveling to and from the moon. Finally, there is the possibility that the ISS will not be completely completely destroyed, because some companies worry that the deorbiting the entire station would be an absolute waste. So they are working on that to kind of come with a decent consensus on what they're going to do with it and how they can preserve some of it. But one way or another, the ISS project will come to an end in 2031, whether people like it or not. And it's a in its place, it might be there might be some smaller space stations ready and waiting to continue humanity's presence in Earth's orbit, with astronauts ready to put their feet back on the moon. So the ISS will leave behind an impressive legacy, but perhaps it might not be the biggest and the best anymore. So we're going to see how that goes. And I am absolutely excited when it comes to space exploration and space advancements, because there is so much to it. There really, really is. Okay. Let's move on over to our next one, because this one is very, very cool. It's one of the very first human blueprints that you've ever seen. So let's pull this up. Here it is. So archaeologists have described what would be the oldest examples of construction plans in human history, chiseled into ancient stones in Jordan and Saudi Arabia between 7,000 and 8,000 years ago. Engraved geometric patterns have been matched with neighboring desert megastructures built long before the pyramids of Giza, leading an international team of researchers to conclude they represent some kind of early blueprint guiding their creation. From the view of a passing plane or satellite, the huge ancient stone constructions form a shape that utilize parts of the natural landscape. And those shaped like arrows are known as kites, and archaeologists suspect they represent massive hunting traps designed to funnel wild herds into enclosures or even off of cliffs. Thanks to a recent analysis of ancient stone engravings, we now have a clear understanding of the design process behind these kites. Again, those are those arrow shapes that are known as kites. So, Remy Crassard, an archaeologist at the French National Center for Scientific Research, and his colleagues in Saudi Arabia and Jordan state the extreme precision of these engravings is remarkable, representing gigantic neighboring Neolithic stone structures, the whole design of which is impossible to grasp without seeing it from the air or without being their architect, user, or builder. So this is amazing, and it kind of reminds me in some aspects of Göbekli Tepe or even the Nazca lines in Peru, where you have these just massive, massive carvings that if you're not in the sky, you're not really gonna see it. And I'm referring to the Nazca lines. When it comes to Göbekli Tepe, I'm talking about like the absolute incredible structure for that time period. But the Nazca lines, it does make there's a really great connection between these in Peru, or these ones in Jordan and Saudi Arabia, and the Nazca lines in Peru. But if you look at this, it also kind of looks like a boomerang UFO, doesn't it? Right? A little bit, a little bit. So that's also another I just found that pretty weird. I'm just seeing that right now. But the plans found in Saudi Arabia in 2015 cover a slab of stone measuring just under 4 meters in length and were probably carved using hand picks roughly 8,000 years ago. And they depict a pair of nearby desert kites separated by about 3.5 kilometers or 2.2 miles. The engravings found in Jordan, meanwhile, were carved into an 80 centimeter long block of limestone roughly 7,000 years ago. And I have that image here. So these engravings depict a kite similar in shape to the 8 desert kites found in the nearby region. Now, despite their massive size, desert kites only became known to modern academics in the 1920s when British Air Force pilots caught sight of them while flying above. Since then, over 6,000 have been tailed, dotting the Middle East and parts of Central Asia as well. These vast megastructures are nearly twice as old as the Great Pyramids of Giza, and yet they've received only a fraction of the attention, which is unbelievable. Can you imagine? Okay, everyone always talks about the pyramids of Giza. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's incredible. I mean, the structures that were created are amazing. But 7 to 8,000 years ago, there were blueprints, okay, of something that could have been just as big. We don't know because we haven't found those structures yet. Will we? Gosh, I hope so. Maybe just like even an outline. We have the blueprints, but it would be nice to see like some stones out and about, right? But I think I really love this comparison that this article did between these blueprints found in Jordan and Saudi Arabia and the Great Pyramids of Giza as well. Yeah, Peace of Mind says, is it a guide to building the base of the pyramids? It could be, but you're looking at, let me go back to that image. You're looking at these, I mean, I guess you could see it as a pyramid, but they are referred to as kites, these arrow-like structures. Now all I see is a a boomerang type UFO. But imagine if they were able to place stones across this line and then create a massive structure like a pyramid. That would be mind blowing. And it's unfortunate that if that were the case, there are no remnants left except for the carvings on the ground. Yeah, Bill says if you see it, you carve it. Definitely. Black says carve it and they shall come? Question mark. Interesting, kind of like SOS, right? Put that in the sand when you're on an island. So I think I have another image. Here's another image right here as well, which is pretty cool. But I'll go back to this one, which I think is the most compelling one. But until recently, almost no in-depth studies had been carried out to enhance our understanding of their function or why they were so widespread in many regions, ranging from Arabia to Uzbekistan. Unfortunately, with such limited research, their role in ancient society is still unclear, although there is a strong leading hypothesis that suggests desert kites were designed to capture or kill wild animals using mass hunting strategies. So that's the idea. While, of course, we want to see pyramids and these ginormous structures, they're hypothesizing, stating it was probably to capture or kill wild animals using, like, using a lot of people and using brain power to do so, which is still super cool. Don't get me wrong, but it's not as cool as building a pyramid. But at least we are getting some speculation, some hypotheses, because we don't know. We simply don't know. So all we can do is just use our imagination and guesstimate, not estimate, not guess, guesstimate. The oldest was built at least 9,000 years ago, and back then the Arabian Peninsula was much wetter and greener than it is today. Many desert kites stood on what was once classified as grassland, which was a useful foundation for grazing herds, which is really interesting. Which then would make a lot more sense with that little detail. It would make a lot more sense for archaeologists to think that this was used as a hunting strategy because of the grassland that it used to be. Okay, like, okay, that makes me feel a little bit better. But still, come on, pyramids preferred. And I would like to mention that all of the articles that we covered today will be in the description box below. So you can read these into a lot more detail. But now we're getting into the kind of weird. We're getting into the more weird news. First, we start off with UFOs, get into the paranormal, bring in the space science and archaeology. But now we're getting into the more strange. Are you a Star Wars fan? Probably, right? Okay, but let me ask you this. Star Wars or Star Trek? Out of the two, which one is your favorite? I'm more of a Trekkie myself. But there is a group which joins to push and make fencing with LED sabers an official US sport. So the clash and flash of lightsabers has been captivating audiences since the release of Star Wars in 1977. Now, a Florida group is joining the push to make fencing with LED sabers an official sport in the United States. Golf course, Gulf Coast Sober Training, Gulf Coast Saber Training follow rules accepted by the French Fencing Federation. Those are the rules that they are going to follow when creating this into a sport. Now, Olympic fencing is very much a first person to hit wins, but when it comes to using lightsabers, they want to make it more theatrical. It's designed for, or rather with the audience in mind, as well as the judges in mind. So it's kind of like, I would kind of use the example of gymnastics, right? Like you got to bring in some amazing force, like have amazing just like muscles, but it's also a show. It's very theatrical. They have music, they dance to it, right? But they're also showing these like amazing skills. Is that what this is going to be like? Because fencing, you're playing with fake swords and you have all this really cool gear and that's it. You're not showing off anything except, hitting the other person. But in this case, for this lightsaber sport, it's kind of, in my opinion, you're bringing in like gymnastics and fencing and making this one sport. Now would be even cooler if they had music in the background. I feel like that would, like any type of Star Wars music, that would be so cool. That would just enhance the whole ambiance of participating in something like that. So far, France is the only country accepting LED sabers as a weapon, but the United States fencing set a statement saying that they're going to consider it. You know what that means? Oh, we'll consider it. It means they're not going to look into it until they keep being pestered by it, really. But I guess hopefully we'll find some answers sometime in the near future. This group in the Gulf Coast in Florida is really pushing for it to make it an Olympic sport, and they are going to be using the rules as they do in fencing, but again, a little bit more theatrical to it. I think that sounds like a lot of fun. I think that would be a really, really fun sport, but also like incredibly aggressive as well. And then you have to buy like very special lightsabers in order to do that, right? Because if you hit a little bit too hard, that thing's gonna break. And the nice authentic ones are a few $100s. But then like the cheap ones, right? Good luck having a few rounds with that because it's gonna break so fast. But I feel like it should be a part of the guidelines and the rules that it has to light up, and then you have to pick which side are you on. That would be awesome. Yes, I like that idea. But would this be something that you would enjoy playing in? Or I guess s- it would be a sport, so it wouldn't be like just playing around. It would be like legitimate with competition and stuff like that. Oh, Senza asking a great question. I wonder if they get to wear a cape. It should be mandatory. I feel like capes should be mandatory unless, you've watched The Incredibles where Edna Mode says no capes because they always die or get severely injured when they wear capes. DJ says, I have a bad feeling about this. In what ways? I would like to hear your input on that. In what ways do you think it's a potentially bad idea? I don't think it's either a good or a bad idea. It's just something that I found really strange. And I said, you know what? I got to share it for Strange Weekly News today. There you go, Zenza. My cat's name is Obi-Wan, so I have to be Darth Vader. There you go. No capes. said sideways. You you got the reference. I'm glad someone did. Yes, yes. Bill says we all deserve capes here, Christina. Yeah, uh, capes are cool. Capes are cool. Just you just don't want to fight with one because it'll just be too dangerous. It's like the Achilles heel of all superheroes. All right. Moving on to our next one. This one, it's pretty odd. Do you enjoy drinking soda? Is that like the nice fizziness, being filled with sugar? Does it make you feel energized? Does it make you feel full? Well, there is a man in Iran who claims he stopped consuming food one day in 2006 and has solely relied on sweetened fizzy drinks for energy ever since. This man does not eat food. He solely consumes fizzy drinks. Okay, he's 58 years old now. His name is Gola Mezra Adrishiri, and he claims that the mere sight of food makes him nauseous. So he's like, I'm just not going to have that. But with someone drinking this much fizzy, he drinks 3 whole, like, big bottles a day and then a little bit of water here and there since 2006. You should be dead, right? Like, how is something like this even possible to only consume one thing? I mean, I bet he's cheating, maybe, because it's just too wild. It's too obscure. I bet he has, like, the odd burger here and there, maybe, and he's just telling us that he's not eating food. But if someone can live without food, tell me the secret. That'd be great. How did I go to the grocery store like twice a week and spend a few $100s on it? You know what? Like if I didn't have to eat, aside from like the occasional ramen here and there, I'd be happy. Yeah, sounds great. Well, he's been drinking Pepsi and Coke for the last 17 years. Okay, right off the bat, right there. I mean, he should be with like every type of diabetes already. The amount of sugar that is in these types of fizzy drinks is insane. It's that whole can that you're seeing on screen, 90% of that is sugar. That like little 10% is maybe water, and that's even questionable. So that is wild. But here's what happened in 2006. He was living a pretty normal life. He was eating food every day, 3 times a day. And then something really weird happened. He stated, I had a strange feeling. I felt like an object, like hair, was inside of my mouth. And I felt the head of this hair was inside of my mouth and the end was inside of my stomach. And no matter what I did, it wasn't possible to remove this hair. And he said that it just felt really weird in his mouth. If you've ever had hair in your mouth, it's horrible. Like it sucks. But in this case, he felt like the little head of hair was on the outside, and then the rest of it was like inside of his stomach. So he went to every type of doctor, and no one could give him a diagnosis. No one can tell him what was wrong. And he mentioned that he felt like he was suffocating with this, and he tried tugging it, and there was nothing there. And so like he felt like he was going crazy. And everyone that he spoke to recommended a different doctor to him. So he went to all of them, but none of them could give him an answer. So then he was even advised to go to a psychiatrist, but that didn't work. So he just decided to give up food entirely and live on soda exclusively. He did tell Iranian reporters that the first time he drank a glass of soda, he felt energized like never before. So he decided that the delicious concoction would be his alternative to food. And he claims that he lost 32 kilos since he started drinking soft drinks, but he hasn't had any serious health issues. He goes to the doctor every single year, and they don't see anything wrong with him. Supposedly, he doesn't have diabetes and he's totally fine. And he mentioned that ever since he started living on fizzy drinks, He's been feeling more energized than before. He now sleeps just 4 hours a night and spends his nights watching TV and solving puzzles. Puzzles are fun. But this whole thing of just merely drinking soda is unbelievable. He also does sometimes drink a glass of water and a glass of tea every single week, but for the most part, he just depends on soft drinks, several like big bottles a day. Bill says he's an alien. Seems like it. And Dark Star, thank you so much for the gift card, please. Cherry Garcia ice cream and dark chocolate Dove bars make the world a happier place. Cherry Garcia ice cream is so good. But you know what? It's always the mini ice creams that taste so much better than like the big ones. Here is this man right here drinking his soda, one of these big bottles, and it's unbelievable. All right, $52 on a Starbucks or Amazon gift card. That is so exciting. Yay. Thank you, everyone that is donating. If you want to make someone's day, put in a super chat that says for the gift card, and someone will walk away a very happy person. Peace of Mind says, nope, I don't believe it. Julia says, I wish I had a Pepsi now. It's those little things that definitely influence you to have something that you see. I'm fully with that. Whenever I read anything about ramen, anything about chocolate, I'm like, you know what? I now have a hankering for one of those foods, and then I go straight to the kitchen, and I'm like, nom 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 nom. It's subliminal messaging right there. Chris says he's so lean. Yeah. He's very thin. He mentioned that he lost a decent amount of weight since he started, but that was 17 years ago. So, pretty crazy. Pretty crazy. But I got a few other ones for you that are just kind of more on the this image is pretty creepy, and I thought, you know what, I'm definitely going to share this image. But viewer discretion advised. All right, here's this. By the way, in the doll's eyes, it's barnacles. That's what's in there. Because creepy dolls and fiberglass mermaids and even a prosthetic leg are among the Texas beach discoveries set to be auctioned to benefit a local wildlife rehabilitation group. So people are walking across the shore and they're finding really weird things, and they think, you know what, let's put on an auction. Let's sell this kind of stuff. And the purpose for this particular auction in Texas is to raise more money for sea turtles, because these people that are seeing these items that are walking along the shore are in order to help sea turtles that look like they're surrounded with some type of like, debris or, like plastic and things like this. So whenever they are looking for turtles, they find these weird things and they're like, all right, we're going to put that in a pile and we're going to auction that. But this one is a mermaid. This other one's like this really scary doll. But again, those are little barnacles. But man, does it look disgusting. Like it looks super duper duper nasty. But there are a few other things that will be up for auction, such as a spell bottle, money from other parts of the world, an old Bible, Chinese beer, steamship coal from the 1800s, and a message in a bottle. That's a good song. That floated from Jamaica. So I think that, if you live across the shore, next to a beach, it's so much fun to just kind of look for treasures. Like you feel like a pirate. It's so exciting. But in this case, they're here to raise money to save turtles. Peace of Mind says, I'm going to have nightmares now. Yeah, I'm not going to show that again. It was pretty freaky, but I'm like, I got to share it. I got to share it. But Black says, don't zoom in. I felt like if I zoomed in, it would make it a little bit less scary because you can see in the barnacles. But I guess it just made it worse for some people. Yeah, Chris, it looks like bugs coming out of its eyes. It totally does. My stomach churned when I first saw it. Like I was at some point eating a bowl of popcorn, and then I saw the image and I'm like, you know what? I'm really not hungry anymore. Yeah. That's right, menial. Police, Sting, that's a jam. Message in a bottle. Yeah, really great. Yeah, I'm glad some people are singing it because it's awesome. Yeah, Marty, it needed some googly eyes. It definitely did to make it just a little bit easier. Like, who would buy that? Crazy people. But they've been sold before. There have been a few other dolls that don't have eyes, where barnacles are growing out of it, and they were sold. And you know what? Good for them. But I am not. I'm not one of those people. I would like to have peaceful dreams, preferably. Well, I have the best for last. Before we do the prize drawing, make sure to put ice cream in the live chat if and only if you are watching this live. And I'll put this up while I read this article so that everyone can be on the same page here. But put this in the live chat. Let's get to 90 entries. Come on, let's do that. So, the best for last. This one's actually hilarious because a driver was pulled over for speeding, but he tried to switch places with his dog to avoid arrest. And this took place in Colorado a few days ago. So an officer watched this man maneuvering inside of the car before he got out of the passenger side on Saturday night in Springfield, a town of about 1,300 people in the state's eastern plains. And he said that when the policeman got over to the car, there was a dog sitting at the wheel. And this man, he ended up going to prison. He was under the influence. So he it was under suspicion that he was probably under like through either alcohol or drugs, but he's looking at the police officer and he's like, obviously I wasn't driving, sir. The dog was, and the dog was speeding. Come on, do the math. Do the math. Do you see me in the driver's seat? No, sir. It wasn't me. It was the dog. So the dog should go to prison. And of course, the policeman wasn't buying it. He's like, okay, all right, put your hands where I can see them, right? And then he handcuffed him and put them in jail, which is, it's a funny story. Looking at it now, I don't think it was funny at the time for this person who we don't know his name. It hasn't been made public yet. But just imagine that for a moment, right? You're a policeman and you see a dog right in the driver's seat, and you see the other man like just trying to play like a really normal face, being like as if nothing happened. I don't know how this policeman had a straight face. I would be laughing. I would be laughing so hard. I'd be like, this is the best day of my life. So I had to say best for laugh on the best for last on this one. But I will share some images on an idea of what it might have looked like, because it is very, very funny. And so here's one of them. This dog is just chilling with some nice sunglasses. And here's another one, also with nice sunglasses as well. He's like, me? No, sir, it wasn't me. It's just too funny. Uh, but out of all the articles that we covered today, which one was your favorite? Let me know in the live chat. Let me know in the comments as well. I will give you a good minute to rack in your word of the day, so that someone's going to walk away with a $52 Starbucks or Amazon gift card. If you're listening to this on replay or on a podcast platform, you can watch the show live every single Friday at 3 p.m. PST, 6 p.m. EST for a chance to win. Marty says, Garry Nolan, hands down, was his favorite article. Nice. Nice. That was a pretty good one. I thoroughly enjoyed it. All right, come on. Let's get to 9 more entries. Let's make it 90. 90 entries. I'm not gonna pull the trigger until we get to 90. I'm just gonna sit here, and we're all gonna sit here together until we get it. Maybe I'll eat some popcorn. No, I'll eat that later. Maybe I should eat some popcorn. I'm just gonna wait, because right now it's a movie. Theater popcorn is the best. Come on, 6 more. We have another Garry Nolan fan article by Bale. It was a pretty good article. DJ says, give that dog the breathalyzer. You have to. You never know, right? Ginger Turtle says, no lie, my pet bird ate my homework once as a child. Oh my gosh, did your teacher believe that? That's hilarious. Yeah. Come on. Barnacle Baby was Raz's favorite article. But then P says, I hated the voodoo doll. I think I'm behind. All right, come on, 2 more entries. Come on, 2 more. Yeah. Android says, popcorn is dangerous. Those kernel shells will cut your gums. Happened to me twice. I won't eat it. Yeah, I've been there too, but it's just like that. It's that crunch that's just so satisfying. I can't let it go. All right. We're just going to do the drawing in one more. Come on. One more. Ice cream, all caps. One word. Let's go. Someone's going to walk away with the $52 Starbucks or Amazon gift card. Some pretty good stuff right there. All right, we're at 90. Here we go. Let's see what it's going to be. Salvador Martinez Jr., congratulations. You are the winner. Send me an email with your YouTube URL. My email is in the description box below. And let me know if you would prefer a Starbucks or Amazon gift card. And I will get that sent to you via email rather shortly. Congratulations. That is so exciting. I see you in the live chat all the time. So that's so cool. Well, that is it for today. Again, share with me your favorite article that we covered today. And if you want to continue this conversation, bring it over to the Discord server with 1,700 other like-minded members. Share your thoughts, your insights, your opinions, your experiences, and more. Follow me on Twitter at eyes_on-the-skies for all of my updates and news. And if you are enjoying all the content that you're seeing right here, consider being a Patreon supporter. All the funding goes straight to the channel, little bit to Puck, and to the RV Fund, where I'll be traveling the United States, hitting all the UFO and paranormal hotspots, documenting it, and taking you on the journey with me. That is it for today. I will see all of you guys soon. Be safe, and remember, keep your eyes on the skies.